at Sabrachi Jewelry Design, or Sabrachi. I don't even say his name right anymore because of Zach. He's a sponsor of Now We Go, and he's a sponsor of this show. He's a dual sponsor. He's a gemologist. He's a jeweler. He's specialized in CAD design, and he's also a branding specialist. You need anything at all done in those categories, Matt is the best motherfucker for that. It's D'Antonio and Klein Jewelers in Philadelphia, PA, and he's also going to be doing it soon to be in Lehigh Valley, PA. You can call or DM for appointments. He's in Philly on 726 Sanson Street, and you can follow him on social media at Sabrachi Jewelry Design. He's made pendants for finishers. We're working on stuff together. It's not just jewelry. We're working on pendants and all kinds of things. He's making rings. He can do anything that you need, from design to gems to jewelers. He is the real deal, and I'm excited. He's a childhood friend who grew a diamond business. He's a jeweler. We did a podcast with him. It's a cool story. Check him out. Sabrachi Jewelry Designs. Influencer, TikToker, entrepreneur, OnlyFanser. At this point, I'm just adding ERs. Show stalker, Gypsy Sister Kelly Lynn. She's sponsoring the show. And all you little boys who hit me up in my DMs, look at that, man. She's in a bikini. Go pay for it. Go pay for it. Go over to her Instagram. You want to know what Kelly's doing? Guys and girls, because girls, you can learn what she's doing. She's making a lot of money. You go over to @theGypsySister. You click on the link in her bio. After you look at all her pictures, a lot of good content. She's putting out content. She's an influencer. She's crushing TikTok. So you get into that Instagram, and then you click on it. And then you got your links. You got all your links now. You can see everything she's doing. Everything. She's doing merch. She'll pick up a shirt or a pillow. You want to sleep next to her? That's what I do. I got 6 of them in my bed. TikToker. You want to see her dance a little bit? See her dance on the railroad? Go there. She's an entrepreneur, an influencer, a TikToker. We're doing a podcast together. She's got a webpage coming. Should have asked me to do it. It'd be done. And she's a counselor. Girls, you want to learn how to do what she's doing? Go check it out. All the information is at Gypsy Sister on Instagram. Thank you for sponsoring the show. Thank you for being a part of the show. Thank you for finally taking the step towards OnlyFans. And you can go check it out, guys. Get out of my DMs and get into hers. Thank you, Kelly. Mad J's Barbecue, www.madjsbarbecue.com. They take cash, they take credit card. You can order online. Order online is the easiest for everybody. They can also call in their order. They got 2 locations. They are killing the barbecue game. Started out small. Now these guys got 2 separate locations. They're doing catering. They're doing pop-ups at Seven Sirens Brewery. What else can these guys do? The Nazareth location is over at 52 East Lawn Road. Anybody knows where Nazareth is? It's down past 7-Eleven, right next to Rita's. Shout out Calandra. They are at 52 East Lawn Road, and that's 610-365-7275 and www.madjsbarbecue.com. Justin just opened up the 2nd location, and he is a part of Willow Creek Brewery, and that is 643 Penn Avenue, West Reading, Pennsylvania. I'm going to be having these guys on the show, and they are crushing barbecue, catering, in-store, pickup. They're doing it all, man. They're doing it all. Check them out at madjsbarbecue.com, and thank you for being a sponsor. Precision Laser. Precision Laser is a family-owned aesthetic laser practice in Easton, Pennsylvania that was founded in 2019. They offer laser hair removal, laser tattoo removal, vascular and pigmented lesion removal, acne treatment, and more. Their team of licensed experts use cutting-edge technology and safe laser protocols to deliver you the best skin results throughout Easton, New Jersey, and the greater Lehigh Valley. They provide free consultations and affordable pricing to make laser treatments accessible to you all. To learn more about their services or book an appointment, please go to precisionlaserspecialist.com or call 484-306-0089. They are located at 42 South 3rd Street in Easton, PA, 18042. What are they running this summer? Hair removal. I'd like to get this whole thing removed because what do I want? A summer beach bod. They are running for $165 per session. You pick 2. Armpits, bikini Brazilian, upper legs, lower legs. This is what we're doing with them. I'm excited to have them, and I'm excited for them to be working with us. They're on the podcast. You can check out everything they're doing on the website, and thank you for being a sponsor. Look good this summer. Look good. So this is probably 150, maybe 40, I don't know.
You do like an introduction for me, what do we do? Ooh.
We just get the fuck into it, man. Welcome to Never Get Goddamn Radio, you son of a bitch.
Clapped. I wasn't ready for that part.
I did one with the Pro Builds guy, and I think I need to start sitting down and recording because, like, what we were doing before this, I wouldn't have left that much into it, but we rolled into conversation.
Yeah.
And then I was like, man, that's kind of how I wanted to start the show. Because normally I just clap and you just, because Jesse's always like, I think it's so weird that you just like throw these people into the interview, but there's really
this would
nothing
have been a
else to
fucking
do.
3-hour episode. Nobody wants to hear.
Yeah, because we were talking for an hour. That's what happened with the Pro Builds guy. We were outside for an hour, then we were down here for an hour, then we did an hour, and then I'm just like, dude, it's 11 o'clock.
Born to bullshit.
Yeah, man. How the fuck are you?
I'm all right.
I haven't seen you in so long. I've been dying.
It's been a minute.
I've been dying to tell this story. I'm glad it's in a video format because it was your story, man. You used to run your screen printing, and this is anytime your name comes up, I said, you know that motherfucker used to work out of a shed. Out of a shed.
It's a big shed.
It was
a shed.
It's got to be surreal for you to be doing what you're doing, starting in that goddamn shed.
Yeah, of course. It's there are days. 2020 was weird, but up until 2019, I would just on some days I would just walk out into the shop when things were really humming, and I would just kind of stand there and look at it and soak it in. It was nice. It was very, very cool, very surreal to be, surrounded by people that I like, doing something that I like, and not getting paid well for it, but getting paid for it.
Yeah, it's got to be weird for you. I mean, well, I guess it doesn't. One of the best things about social media is following stories that are like seeing growth of people. And then when I saw you were like in that spot you're in now, I was like, holy goddamn shit, did he push this? Because I remember you were in the shed, and then you went over to the place over in Bethlehem that was just kind of like a, I don't know, like a garage type thing.
Well, the one behind the pig pen.
Yeah,
Allentown. That was just.
Well, yeah, but weren't you in Bethlehem for a little bit? What was over by home base?
For a cup of coffee. Like when the Secret Art Space, when we stopped doing shows there, the landlord let me stay. I took it over as a print shop, but that only lasted a couple months before some prick lawyer bought the building, and I knew that before long I was going to be in the path of a bulldozer. So I wanted to get out of there as soon as possible.
You didn't want to have to break dance to save the building?
right. I'm not a good dancer. So we got out, and it was the same sort of thing. Like everything's just sort of been happenstance and good luck every time, where it was, I don't know, you know that guy Tony Pags?
Sounds familiar.
He's like born to bullshit. You know, he's a nice dude, just hangs out and is very friendly. And I knew him through home base, and he hit me up, and he was like, yo, a buddy of mine is building, he's like fucked around with cars, like classic cars on the weekends, you know what I mean? Like a hobby guy. And he was building a garage on his own property. So he was moving out of the garage over on East Cedar Street off of Union Boulevard. And
that's right. I forgot about that space, and I was there because I picked up buttons.
Yeah. So that was like
I've been at every spot.
You have been at every
except
spot.
for the new one. I haven't been over there yet.
You prick. So
you just throw a drink in my face.
if you go to the new Axelrad before you go to the new My Spot,
I won't.
We're not fucking friends anymore.
I mean, the drive's half the distance.
And when you still haven't made it yet, have you piece of shit?
No. Is there any good hot dogs over there?
There's Pete's, but I don't eat hot dogs, so I don't know. There's Santoro's. They got vegan dogs.
Yeah.
That's what you gotta get.
We'll get into hot dogs.
They're like healthier.
You're friends with, you get like deliveries from Santoro's.
Oh, yeah.
They're good dudes.
Yeah, when we do the wrestling shows at Sokol's, they would always vend at them, and like, they would fucking kill it, you know, but I think they were just down to hang out. They like fun stuff. Yeah. And one of their kids loves wrestling.
That's even better.
So it's like the family likes wrestling. They like hanging out, having goofy shit. And it
helps their business.
Yeah, it gets their name out for sure, and they make money that night, which is, I'm sure, nice. And for us, it's like, you know, we have somebody to sell food.
Hot dogs,
you know, what else? There's nothing. Sokol's is like up on a hill by Lehigh. There's no food right there. So having a vendor in there makes our lives easier, you know? So, and it kind of became like Ultra Mantis helps me run those, and he's also vegan. So it like kind of became part of the brand where it's like, oh, we have vegan food, and that's a very strange thing at wrestling shows to have all vegan food. So
yeah, but I like that and I don't want to get too far into this because this is going to branch off, and because you're doing all this stuff, but I like that you keep it 100% you though.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like
yeah.
you
friend-
do your wrestling, you do the vegan thing, you do the printing. Like, that's why I was excited to do this because it's awesome meeting other people that just do what they want for a living.
My friend Pat, he's in that band Big Nothing. They played the I don't know, one of the Sokol's Let's Hang Out shows, and he was like, dude, this is the inside of your brain, where it's just like
Yeah.
punk bands and wrestling and vegan food and just chicanery, just complete fucking nonsense. And he's like, this is what it is. This is what is inside of your head all the time. And I was like, yeah, I guess you're right.
Yeah,
I didn't think
but
about that.
A lot of people don't do that, though. A lot of people care too much about other people's opinion. Maybe people focus on making more money than they do on the actual event. There is a lot of people that don't put, or they mimic something they saw. It's very hard. Like when I saw you were doing that, I was like, yo, that looks awesome. Like it's
Yeah.
wrestling and all they have the vendors there, and it's like, and everybody looks like they're having a blast. And then seeing it through other people's social media, like Wolves goes and stuff. And it's cool watching that event go down, through like you do whatever the fuck you want for them. It's awesome.
Yeah. It's strange to me that people don't do that more.
Yeah.
But it's also strange to me that people give a shit about like anything that we do. It's just
Yeah,
like,
yeah. It's weird. It's like
this-
a weird gray area.
right. Like, I've talked a fair amount about like the first show that we did, I thought was just going to bomb. I didn't think, I thought we were going to lose our shirts. Ultramantis and I before the show were just like, we're fucked. We're going to lose $2,000 tonight. But we had to do it. We had to get that idea out of our head. We had to like, just do this, because if it failed, we could go, see, we knew it was going to suck.
Yeah.
But it was fun.
I was
Whatever,
just going to say that I believe that's the correct attitude to go into doing stuff.
And then it worked. It's like
Yeah.
if you build it, they will come kind of thing, I guess, where it was just like, what is this? And I think a lot of people came sort of in like a car wreck, like, what the fuck is this? And then they left wrestling fans, which
Yeah.
is very strange, you
But
know?
it also sucks to do stuff like that, and you're like, this is going to do so awesome, and then it does terrible.
well.
And then you're like, it's harder to swallow the pill, where if you would have been like, if you guys would have been like, this is going to be awesome, and no one showed up, as opposed to being like, this sucks, and then it's a home run, and you do 5 of them, you know what I mean?
Yeah, knock on wood, we haven't eaten too much shit yet, and we
No, I don't-
make money at the shows, but we haven't like really gotten fucked. There's
Yeah.
always been good crowds, and everybody's been like super fun and had a good time. So make memories,
Yeah. So how long were you at the Allentown one?
4 years.
It's so crazy how fast time goes.
Yeah, well, I was in the shed. For a couple years. I quit my job, and it became.
Yeah. What were you doing while you were at the shed?
I was a projectionist. You mean like what was I like my day job?
Yeah.
Yeah, my day job was a projectionist, and it got to the point which is like the best job I've ever had, total stoner job, the best fuck off job, right? And they don't have them anymore. It sucks. I was the last projectionist at the Carmike in Allentown. So I was a projectionist, and it got to the point where I was making more money like on my days off than I was at my day job. And so I sort of was starting to look at why I was wasting my time. I liked the job as a projectionist, and like that was enough of a paycheck that if I didn't print a single shirt that week, I still had my rent paid. I still had my, my phone bill paid, whatever. And some shit happened where I quit there sooner than I had really intended to. So I kind of like got thrown into the deep end a little bit with screen printing. And within 6 months, I was working full time.
What did you have in the shop set up? Because I remember you had the little dryer.
In the shed.
Yeah.
So in the shed, originally I didn't even have a dryer. I had a flash unit. So I would just flash cure everything. So I would print. I just bumped the mic.
You're good.
I had a single 4-color 2-station press. I still have it at the shop now. We still use it for like flat stock stuff. I had that, and I had a flash unit, and that was it. So I would have to print the shirts, and then I'd flash them, I'd put them off to the side, and then when I was done with the run, I'd put them back on the boards, and I would flash them again for like 30 seconds or whatever to get the ink to the temperature where it would cure. And then, so I'd be out there in the middle of fucking winter.
Yeah.
In an uninsulated shed freezing my ass off. Because at least when I was printing, I'd be moving a little bit. There was that body heat. But when you're flashing, I just put a shirt on board and you just stand there and freeze to death, you know?
Yeah. And then summer, it's fucking hot.
Yeah, and then summer's fucking brutal. So then I got like I got a used quartz heating element conveyor dryer off of Craigslist for like $1,500. It was like a press that I didn't need. So I sold to my friend Brad and a dryer, set that up. And so it was like the way this table is like right up against me. It was like
yeah.
Fucking
I remember
dryer
that.
there, press here, and then a table over here to my side. So there was just enough room for the pallets on the press when you have two working stations to spin them, have the flash across from me. So I print one shirt while the other one's flashing. And there was just enough room for those to clear between the table and the dryer. And that was it. And then I got a newer dryer. I got an infrared dryer off of Craigslist again for a couple grand used. And that replaced the big dryer that I had, which I then sold to Brad also, because he lived out in Reading and he set up a little shop in his basement. And so that was it. Was just like, it probably was practically as wide as the table to the wall. It was this square footage of a one-car garage, but it was only like 12 feet, maybe 16 feet wide. I don't think it was 16 feet. I think it was 12 feet wide because it was snug in there. And then behind me, there was a whole bunch of screens, and over to the other side of the shed were just boxes of shirts. Eventually that grew to, it was my parents' backyard.
Yeah, because you had like an extension cord running from the fucking...
From the pool.
From the pool?
Yeah.
Where were you doing all the artwork on? Were you doing
At
that?
home.
But you were learning all that yourself?
Yeah. Everything that I know how to do graphic design-wise, I've learned on my own. And that, probably started like in the early 2000s when I started booking punk shows and like making flyers for that stuff. And then as it came up, that's why I learned how to screen print too, and I just figured it out as I went, and now we have graphic designers that are actually trained in what they're doing. But I would do all that at home. I would burn all the screens at home. I did all that stuff. And
how did you learn how to do all that shit?
By fucking it up.
Yeah. Because back then, was YouTube even?
No,
there wasn't the tutorial shit, and you
No.
couldn't. I don't even know if the iPhone was the way it was.
No. I had a fucking flip phone. You know what I mean? Like,
maybe books. Maybe you could buy a book.
Not really, because even all the books that I saw were fucking half cooked. Like they were shitty.
Yeah.
I bought the very first thing that I did was I bought a $45 starter kit, a speedball starter kit from AC Moore, and I fucked that all up. And then I tried it again, and I fucked that all up. And then from there, it just like I fucked up a little bit less every time. But YouTube was, YouTube was a thing, but it wasn't what it is now. No,
you can you can look up anything.
Yeah, I fixed a washing machine looking at YouTube.
So did I.
Sick.
I fixed the dryer at my brother's in Virginia, and I was like,
Man.
oh, it was just this. And my brother, I moved in with him, and it was running wrong. And he goes, you got to dry everything twice. I go, what? I go, if you look, he goes, you just got to run it twice. I go, what do you mean? I go, have you looked into getting it fixed? He goes, I need a new one. Yeah. So I just looked up what was going on here. It was, there was lint clogged in. I went in the back, went to Lowe's, replaced the thing. I never felt more like a man than that goddamn day.
Dad was proud of you that day. I had to change the dogs out. It wasn't shaking the basket in the washing machine anymore. You pull the fucking thing with the little teeth. It was like a $6 part. Best day of my life.
Yeah, he's like, dude, you fixed the dryer? I was like, yeah, man.
And
then I made it sound like it was easy. I was like, yeah, I just need to swap out a couple of parts.
Yeah, no, none of that shit. So it was like, this speedball starter kit was like a 4-page pamphlet. It was fucking worthless. and I'm just trying to figure it out. I think at that point, I think I had gotten a zine, like a DIY fanzine kind of half-page thing that was kind of step by step, but even that was bullshit. It's like you don't know how to do it until you do it. And so that I just went through it, and I fucked up a lot of shirts, and I fucked up a lot of screens, and I like I said, fucked up progressively less and less as I went, and ended up doing okay at it.
I feel like a lot of people ignore the fact of how much failure there is to somebody who's successful. You know what I mean? Like I look at like where I'm at now is a very humbling spot where I'm finally giving myself credit because I can get by, which is all I really ever wanted to do. Everyone else, is the one who told the story of these amazing things I'm going to do. I just was like, hey man, like I just want to pay my bills.
Yeah,
but,
I want to not have a real job.
Yeah. But I look at like what I'm doing now, and like I'll have conversation with my mom and be like, man, like it's so fucking crazy. Like how many times I had to fuck this up and then not give up on it to be able to like, because basically every year is when you start over. So it's like, all right, I got 365 days. Like let's try and do this correctly, and let's try and do that correctly. And there's so many moving parts, but like when you fuck up like that, you're learning. And if you allow yourself to learn from the mistake, you can really go anywhere if you don't give up on it.
Yeah, a lot of people over the years have asked me like, "Oh, what advice do you have?" And my advice is always just like, get ready to fuck up a lot.
Yeah.
And get ready to do shit that doesn't seem worth it. If you are going to start your own business, you need to do stuff that isn't worth it at the time, or doesn't feel worth it, or that you can't put a dollar figure on. Like all the events that I would work, I whenever we would work an event, that wasn't about leaving with money in our pocket. That was about shaking hands and kissing babies.
You'd always tell me that because I picked up T-shirts from you or a sweatshirt sometime, and you were like you were in a church basement, and there was something in Bethlehem you were doing, and I was like, oh, what's this? And you're like, shaking hands, meeting people, kissing babies, man. And I was like, what? And you're like, networking.
Kissing hands and shaking babies. Yep. That's
but
all
it's true. And it's like, now I look at what I've done with just doing the podcast and meeting people. And that is the most important part, is the networking.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like, and the fucking up.
Yeah.
Like you're not going to learn a lesson the same way by reading it on paper. You're going to have to do it yourself. And you're not going to understand the value in wasting your time without wasting your time, and you're going to have to, and nothing's a waste of time at the same breath, nothing is a waste of time because you learn from it.
Yeah.
You're out there. If you're out there kissing babies, you're still talking to people, you're networking with people, and, you're learning from them. So you got to be ready to do stuff that doesn't have any sort of sense to it,
Yeah, and it's a lot of it's too is understanding your timeline on when you think the shit's all going to work out, and when it actually does work out, you have zero control over.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Now, when you were over at the Allentown spot for 4 years, is that when you outgrew that again? Because at this point, I'm guessing you just keep outgrowing your spaces.
Yeah. So, I outgrew the shed, took over my parents' garage with all the, boxes and boxes of shirts, bought a second press while I was still in the shed, didn't have anywhere to put it, but it was at an
Probably
auction.
Felt good.
yeah. I'm sure my parents loved it.
You got 2 presses.
Can't use one of them. So when we moved over to the art space, we had both presses running, which was very cool. And I had like a part-time employee. I had 2 part-time employees at that point. Then we outgrew.
What was that like, getting your first employee? Was it scary? Or
you know what? The funny thing is, I had part timers at the shed.
Yeah.
Which is, I think that I wasn't able to get cocky because they still had to go like say hi to my mom when they go to take a leak.
Yeah, they're like, "Can I use the bathroom? Your mom's making us food."
Yeah. It was, but there was a swimming pool in the backyard, so they could go swimming afterwards. So that was a perk. It's cool. Having an employee and realizing the power that gave me to get more shit done was like so wild and eye-opening, of just like, oh, if I don't spend my time stacking out these shirts, I can print more shirts.
It's weird when you're at a point too where you start realizing that you can create jobs out of things. Like all the things that I'm learning down here, I'm like, oh God, I can't wait till like somebody else is handling this so I don't have to run around like an idiot all day. And then I was like, holy shit, man, like you're creating jobs.
Yeah, that really kind of didn't necessarily hit me until the last couple of years when, like I said, I'll go out in the shop and I'll just kind of look at it and be like, God damn, this is cool. You know what I mean? And it's just like being able to create a workplace environment and a workplace culture that people don't hate coming to, that we're all friends. We don't, there are days where we're sick of each other, you know what I mean? But like, and there's days where we're sick of fucking t-shirts, but we're still it beats having a real job. We're not working next to some racist prick. You know what I mean? Like everybody there is on the same page. Everybody there is cool.
There's nothing worse than being stuck at a job and you fucking hate who you work with.
Yeah. One of the guys that we hired in the last maybe 2 years worked at another print shop, and he was like, we would listen to the fucking 99 The Hawk all day.
It's the worst.
And like
radio music.
Yeah, and he's just like, I just got all these fucking like normal ass people around me, and he's like, this one fucking guy is like a total MAGA chud, and like, I gotta fucking, you know what I mean? And then to come to L.V.A.C. where we're all fucking shitheads, but we're all the same kind of shithead, is like, you know, and realizing like, not only this has grown beyond what I ever imagined it would be, and this grew on its own to this of just, I just did this because I didn't want to have a job. I did this because I didn't want to work a real job. And in doing that, it turned into a real job, but it also turned into the situation where it's like, I'm not only creating wealth, very small wealth, but I'm not only creating wealth for myself, I'm creating wealth for other people that they can pay their bills and they can live their lives. And, you know, everybody wants to make more money and everybody wants to work a little bit less. And there's definitely room to improve on that. But just the idea that it's just like, yo, you could be working a register at Target and you could be working at a landscaping crew, but you're not. You're here with us doing this. And that's kind of cool, you know, and that's, it's empowering, and it's also humbling because, like I said, I never knew this was gonna happen. You know, I used to say I really liked screen printing, and so I wanted to learn how to get really good at screen printing, and then I got so good at screen printing that now I don't screen print anymore.
Yeah,
and it's this sort of like, you know, ironic, cruel joke of just like, I liked doing this thing, so I got good at this thing, and I got so good at it that now I have other shit I got to do. And now this, I didn't want to have a real job, is now a real job. You know, where there's 9 or 10 people that I respect and care about that rely on me to pay their bills and rely on me to steer this ship, you know, and that's not even to get into like our clients, you know, Homebase, he doesn't pay his bills selling skate wheels. You know what I mean? Like, so the idea that we can help him stay above water and help his business grow and all that he does for the community by making him t-shirts is like incredible, you know? And it's humbling and it's intimidating, but it's also amazing. You know,
it's got to feel weird, man. It's got to feel weird. That's it. I mean, this is why I wanted to do this. Like, it's so like when I was in the shed, and, you know what I mean? And then like I was at every spot, and then when I saw the new place, I was just like, man, you know, he's just crushing it over there. But then like what you said is you don't have to do the screen printing, but it's allowing you to start getting into other avenues of stuff, which is I love to see because it's what's happening with me now is like you now are at a point where you've mastered it. So like now, like, no, I'm saying like the craft of screen printing. So like
I could, there's always more to learn, which is also part of that, something that's cool about it, you know?
But like what I'm getting at is like, you're comfortable enough that you could run this, but now you can start getting into other things because you also learned how to run a business. You also learned how to set up things. Your networking is probably much better, how you talk to people. So now you can do stuff like, all right, cool, I'm going to go over here and do this wrestling thing. But now you have a space to do it because you have a space, you know, and like, I love to see people get to a point where they're somewhere and then they can branch out, and then you really start seeing all these creative projects come down the alley where it's really cool stuff you're doing. I mean, then with the records and everything else you're doing, like you're not just doing one thing, you're doing like a shitload of stuff, and you love to do it all.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's sort of like what I was saying earlier, the mentality of just like, I'm going to do this because I'm just driven to do this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's neat to me, and so I'm going to do it. And if I lose money on it, oh, well, I'll just have to work harder somewhere else and make that money there. And if nobody cares, well, then maybe I'll tweak the formula and see if something else I can do, you know, or like, well, I tried it and I exercised those demons and I got it out of my system. You know what I mean? But yeah, I've been putting out records for
well, that's what I was going to get into. Is, how did you get into doing the vinyl?
It's the same way that I got into screen printing. I didn't play an instrument, and all my friends were in bands. And I liked going to shows, and I liked music, and that was my my way to do it. That was my way to help. That was my role in the production, was to start putting out stuff. And so that was it. I just figured it out, and again, that was 2001. So like, it was tough. It was hard to figure out how to do this shit because websites weren't what they were, And so I started putting out records, and still am doing it. I have a repress at the plant. I have a new record at the plant. I just got a new record a couple weeks ago, which is that Office Hours podcast with Tim Heidecker and my friend Vic. We went to like middle school and high school together. He's on it. So like he made the connection where they wanted to put out a record of one of their live stream recordings, and we did it. Like they hit me up, and that's the most recent thing that's actually been released.
What's it feel like to have learned that craft and brought it along with you? Because most people probably would have focused on the screen printing and kind of let that go off to the side. But you, but you connected, like, because you basically made a scene, and then you're making shirts and doing all your things inside of it. So like, but you kept all the things that you love in that scene. So you didn't have to keep doing the record stuff. So what's that feel like for you to have pushed that skill set so far where, that's a big deal to do that. But I mean, if you didn't know what the fuck you were doing, but you know what I mean? You've been doing that the entire time. So not only are you talented at the screen printing, you're like, oh yeah, I can handle that.
Yeah.
Well, you know what I mean?
I don't know how much, I think the skill set for putting out records is really just knowing how to fill out forms and write checks.
I'm just saying like, you know what I mean? Like, it's something you've done the entire time.
Yes. Yeah. And for years, my bookkeeper to this day, the first couple years that I dealt with her, I had to explain to her, yes, I know the record label lost money. Yes, I don't care about it. I'm sure I still want to do it.
Yeah.
And she got with it after a while, and she kind of like, I don't know if it clicked for her that she just wasn't going to get through to me, or if, like the good sense wasn't going to get through to me, or if she like something clicked where she was like, oh no, this is cool that he just likes to do this.
Yeah.
And like at this point, I think it's pretty evened out to where, it supports itself, and it's not just a horrible money pit anymore, but it certainly doesn't turn a big profit. But no, it's just what I like to do. These are the things I like to do. Yeah. I'm going to do them.
Yeah,
hopefully,
man.
Hopefully someone gives a shit.
It's one of my favorite things about bringing people on this show is I try and, there's people I bring on that are just starting up businesses, and then there's people that have pushed businesses, but like, it's really great to hear other people who are like, because sometimes this shit don't make sense to people. And I'm like, they're like, well, what do you do? And the other day I was like, I do things that I want to do, and I make small amounts of money from each of them, and they all add up. And then if I push these out, all of them I look at is like, how much bullshit do you want to push with? So it's like, if I really wanted to go crazy with everything, my life would be a total just stressful, crazy, like if I wanted to push the apparel company until it was in PacSun, like that's fucking crazy. I'm sure that's a lot of shit to deal with.
Yeah.
But it's like, okay, well, how about I just build a following up, and then I just make this amount of money off that?
That's also like, I want to play center fielder for the Yankees.
Yeah.
Cool. It's not going to fucking happen, man. You find the success that you find.
Yeah.
And you find what makes you happy, and you find what's sustainable, and you make that work.
Some people don't even look for that.
Well, I think that's why a lot of people are stuck fucking themselves over for years. Is like, to me, my mentality growing up really was like, I don't care if I have to have a shitty job to afford to do the things I like to do, because that's the trade-off. It was very pragmatic. It was very like, I'll be a fucking janitor. I'll do this thing. I'll do this job to pay my bills, because I will be able to do the things I like to do. And I never wanted to make a lot of money. And so that was with screen printing. It was just like, well, I can make enough. I'm just going to do this. And then, by dumb luck, by, the generosity and the community and the love of people around me, and luck got us to where we are now. But I didn't plan to do that. I think that people always want They want to be the center fielder for the Yankees. They want to hit a home run every time they go up to bat. And it's just like, just go out there and have fun.
I had a conversation with a friend of mine once, and we were down here, and he was just asking me about shit. And he was like, what do you plan on doing? And I told him all this crazy shit. And he goes, man, that's a lot. That's a lot to accomplish, and that's a lot to get done. And I said, if I get halfway there, I said, I'm now further than I'll ever try and be. You know what I mean? Like, if you set that goal out all the way the fuck out here at 100 yards and you get to 50, 75, it's way past what you ever would have got to not trying to get anywhere. And like, he just looked at me and he was like, oh. And I'm like, yeah, man, that's what I do. And then when you take skill sets and you learn and you fail a million fucking times, you can get you can get inches every year. And then it's just like, I'm like so happy that I figured out how to get the fuck out of this basement.
Yeah.
Everyone thinks it's great to be down here, except for me. I get it. It's cool, but it's like this is
a cool vibe.
I love it. These are all, they're paintings, things of mine, my friends that have passed. Like, everything down here means something to me. This is not something I take for granted. I like what I did here, but like, this isn't what I ever saw. What I saw is what I want to do next.
Yeah.
And when I was in Bethlehem and we were getting ripped off and the landlord sucked, and like, what I saw was this. Like, I'm always trying to be ahead.
Well, see, I think that I look at it differently. Like, you look at it as, if I go for that 100 yards, if I get to 50, I'm 50 further than I was.
Yeah.
That's cool. For me, I don't look at the 100. I'm like, can I get to that 15?
Yeah.
Cool, I'm at the 15. Fucking A.
We did it. We did it.
I wonder if we can get to that 30.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, man, we're at the 30.
Yeah.
And that's if you build it, they will come. You just do what makes sense, and fuck whatever else.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to ever have another job. I don't want my business to go under. So I don't, and I have a lot of gratitude and a lot of like appreciation for where we are, but like, I never expected to be here, so that I'm here is great.
Isn't it a weird feeling?
It is. And what happens next? I don't have a backup plan.
Yeah.
Whatever happens next is whatever's going to happen next. If I got to figure something else, like whatever the next step is, will just be there.
Yeah.
And I never looked at these like pie in the sky. Oh, I'm gonna fucking set the world on fire. It's just like, no, man, I'm gonna do something cool.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do something cool, and I hope that it works.
I don't know how many of situations where it's a successful story as someone I don't know anybody who's like, what I was going to do is this, and they went and did it. It's usually somebody who's like fed up with something going on in their life, or they're pushed too far, or they, like, I've had so many terrible fucking jobs, and I'm like, I was just tired of like really working hard and like, expecting more, but then maybe not getting it because I shouldn't have got it because it was working for someone else. I look back on things now and I'm like, I'm older, I'm 40. I'm like, oh, well, if I worked for you, like, maybe I would have treated you that way as well. Maybe you were expecting too much, but like, what I kept noticing is I worked as hard as I fucking could. And then I was just like, I remember just sitting around being like, well, what if I just like worked this fucking hard for my own shit?
Yeah.
And then it's like, just did it. Yeah. And then like, I'm like, all right, well, you're not going to give up. So, you know what I mean? Like, I quit one job ever. So it's like, you start looking at things differently. And then when you start actually like thinking differently and being like, I would just see people doing their own shit. And I'd be like, well, how did he do that? Why does he get to do that? And I don't. And like having those conversations in a kitchen when like it's a Monday and no one's coming in and we shouldn't even be there because it's fucking, the guy's losing money for being open. And then I'm like, we're just standing around here, man. I don't want to fucking do this anymore.
Yeah.
And then it just gets to a point where I was just like, I want to do something. I would rather do something. And then when I started getting into the creative stuff with like making t-shirts and like, it was like what you said, like you didn't know how to play an instrument. I was always wanting to be creative. I didn't know how. I couldn't draw. I can't play the guitar. Like I'm too spun
You're
weird.
a talentless hack. I can vouch for that.
Yes. So like when I started getting into the t-shirt stuff, it's like I started learning how to design and create things through artists. And then I would feel like I created something.
Yeah.
So then it's like I started moving stuff around and doing different things. And like once I figured out how to create, then it was just game over. And
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I can fucking work really hard and do this thing and be creative. And just then I was like addicted. And I was like,
Yeah.
I'm doing this until all I ever said to everybody. And I remember the fucking moment when I thought it, which was like fucking 11 years ago. I just want to get by. I don't want $1 million. I just want to pay. I want to do what I'm doing right now, have an apartment, but do what the fuck I want. And I think that mentality kept me grounded to keep going. Because I think if I would have been like, I'm going to be a millionaire and I'm going to have my t-shirts everywhere, or like, I'm going to do this and that, I would have just gave up because it would have been such a letdown.
Right.
Thinking I'm going to be play for the Yankees.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I think also like, I get the impression that you, and I for sure me, see a lot of value in being like a conduit to that stuff. Like I didn't play an instrument. I wasn't, a musical artist, but I could help do that. I could help them get from point A to point B with my skill set and with the shit I was willing to learn. And now with screen printing, like I said, it's like, it's cool to have a business. It's cool to print shirts. Screen printing is cool as shit. It's really cool. I like it. But what's even cooler is what that leads to. Helping a business like Homebase, helping the Southside Film Festival every year. We just did shirts this past week for two different, I think they're both 5Ks, but they were both like, one was Walk for Recovery, one was Laughing at My Nightmare. And it's like, these are cool nonprofits that are now able to do something more than just t-shirts. You know what I mean? Or even if it's just like some tattoo that makes some badass art and you're like, yeah, that'd be cool on a shirt, and I get to do that. Yeah. And then they have that cool shirt. And so I don't think that what I did was all that impressive, or what I did was all that, talent based. But I was part of this game. I was part of this production process. And so it's just like, that's invigorating. And I feel like with this podcast for sure, you're just here to tell the stories. You get to hear the stories, really. You know what I mean? And so, like, same thing with, you're a guy who knows a guy. And so you network a lot. And so that's your hustle.
I love it. It's my favorite thing to do.
And to me, that part of that, and like I said, I don't know if you feel this, but part of that, in my mind, would be being the conduit, being the go-between for that stuff and facilitating that.
I mean, my my sister-in-law called me, and she just... they go to an academy, the kids do, and the school doesn't have any money, and she volunteers as a librarian, and whoever was doing their t-shirts just kept fucking it up over and over and over. And sometimes I get clients from people who just are not handled correctly, and I'm sure you get the same thing, but like, yes. It felt good because I was like, all right, cool. And then like I hit Axelrad up and was like, hey man, like this is coming in.
Hold on. Is this a fucking Axelrad commercial?
No, it is not. What's funny is I never plug it. And then at the last show, I was like, hey, I don't ever say this, but like I can help you with apparel. But like when I hit them up, I was like, hey, like let them know, like, hey man, like I want to come low on this. It's for my sister-in-law. I don't even care if I get the commission check on it. Like I'd like to help the school out. Plus it's a way to get into the school. Like, so it's like, it's cool to like, and then like they were blown away. And the stuff I did for them, like they wanted like a little mermaid shirt or something. And I just like found clip art and was like, it was literally a 3-minute thing. Yeah. And then, but they were so thankful because they've just been handled wrong. Yeah. Like, cause they were like, this is what we want. And I'm like, that's a 9-page paragraph. I'm like, how about we like dumb this down a little bit? Right. And then it's like, they're like, okay. And then when I showed it to them, they were blown away.
Right. You took the time to hold their hand and translate.
And then I'm like, what? They're like, we're giving most of this stuff away. And then my sister-in-law was like, I'm going to pay for some of the shirts. I was like, all right, cool. Like, why don't we do this? And we'll use the cheap Gildan stuff. And then the teachers will give them the better shirts. Mm-hmm. And then like, we'll come in at a great price. And like, she just kept texting me, thank you so much. Thank you so much. And it's like, that's the shit that I'm doing in between all the crazy stuff that like will calm me down. And like, it just feels good to do that. And like what you were saying, which is weird because no one's ever pointed it out, I thoroughly enjoy for doing that for people. It's what I do here. Every time somebody comes in, I'm constantly trying to get people business. And like I said, I don't know if it comes from like, I never had that one thing that like I could do where like, oh, he can play the guitar, or he could do this. But like, I really enjoy doing that for other people. And then especially if it's for charity stuff, because then I'll be like, hey, I don't want my commission. This is this. Let's just do this. They can raise money. And then, and then you start helping them out. We're like, look, this is how much the shirt's going to cost. This is how much, because now I know the retail end of it. So I'm like, you can sell it for this. This is how much money you can make. Well, let's do a pre-order if you're feeling a little scared to do it. I never thought of that. Yeah, this isn't time sensitive. Let's take our time with it. And like the people who give a shit about that, it makes it so rewarding to deal with the nightmares.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was saying earlier before we started recording. Like, there's value in being a guy who knows a guy.
Yeah.
And that's very much, your job description is, in a lot of ways, you're a guy who knows a guy.
Yeah, I didn't know it until a couple people started pointing it out, where my buddy Zach was like, yo, dude, like you, like literally, I'll just text you and you're connected to anything between overseas manufacturing, ammunition, t-shirts, like it's, and then I'm like, oh, all right. Like I've met that many people.
Right. Right. And that's the role that you play in it. You know what I mean? You're a talentless hack, but you're born to bullshit. So you network,
I know. I love networking. And then there's just surreal moments lately where like I was in Easton and I went down to Sailor and Company and got a sandwich. And then like I hit up all like the new shops, like the sneaker shop and all that. And I'm like introduced myself, went over to the ABE thing. And then like I stopped in and saw Nate at the fucking barber shop. But these are all people that came on the show or want to come on the show or like, but it
Have
just.
you had Nate on yet?
Yeah. I want to bring him back on. I think I'm going to bring him back on with Corey. And I like that area in Easton, man. Like there's so many cool businesses down there. And I want to start bringing him on for like double up and triple up on shows and like really push like that part of Easton. Cause those guys there's so much cool talent going on there. But I was like, that's my day. My day was just going around and introducing myself.
Yep.
The arcade guy I met. I didn't even know there was that retro arcade down there. He's coming on. I'm like, how much can, let's get a fucking arcade thing. I want to play Double Dragon down here. WrestleFest. Let's go.
Easton's got some cool stuff. I feel like the city government there is making it easy, at a time when like Bethlehem and Allentown aren't making it as easy for small businesses.
I feel like
they're smart.
I look at everybody and I was like, man, Easton did it correctly.
I think they just caught up. Yeah. Because Bethlehem did it great for years.
Yeah, it's true.
And, not so much. But I guess, it just.
I look at it for food. That's the only thing I pay attention to.
They
Easton
really
crushes
fostered.
food.
Yeah, they really fostered that like foodie scene.
Yeah,
for sure. But.
How'd you get into wrestling?
I was Hulkamaniac, baby. Fucking 8 years old and jumping off the couch and elbow dropping pillows like Macho Man. You know what I mean? It's just, I liked wrestling as a kid. And around, it was probably like 2002, 2003, there were dudes in the area that started doing like DIY punk rock, like wrestling events. It was called the BWA.
Yes.
And it's like, two of those dudes are now in piss jeans.
Yeah.
So it's like...
Well, see, that crossed over with me because that was back then. It was what? The Ultimate Warriors. It was Brad Fry, Kozlov, Josh Martin,
Nazareth.
Randy Hughes.
Yeah,
man. I grew up
as a youth crew.
I grew up with Randy and Josh and Joel Winter, and they were the Elated.
Yeah.
And then, Brad was doing music back then. So, I got to hang out when those guys would practice, and then to see those guys... do what's it called? What was Josh's band with Randy?
Pearls and Brass.
Yeah, Josh was home for the shutdown, and he was actually. I got to hang out with him. It was
That's awesome.
We hung out at my buddy's house, and we just hung out by a fire. And he almost moved back to the area, but he went back to Cali. But I asked him like, how hard would it be to get Pearls and Brass together? And
well, Joel's not in this country, is he?
No. Yeah, and I was like, what if I paid? And Josh looked at me, and I never thought of it. And he goes, you know what kind of shape I'd have to be in to play drums like that, man? And I was like, I didn't even think of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I knew those guys from way back. And I remember when they started the Ultimate Warriors and were going to do fucking shows, and they were opening up for people and shit. And then it kind of just kept going. And I remember, didn't they had a 7-inch at one point?
They did a bunch of records. Yeah.
But I'm just saying, like, our paths crossed with that. But I know those guys were doing the wrestling shit.
Yeah, so they were Nazo Wrestle Violence band.
Yes.
And somewhere between the Ultimate Warriors and Piss Jeans, they did a wrestling company called BWA. They did a couple of shows.
Because Brad bought a ring, didn't he?
Yeah. A bunch of those dudes went in and bought a ring. I think they bought it from Ohio.
Now, I don't know. I knew that shit was going on, but I wasn't plugged into it. Now, was that going on in other cities or like, you know what I mean? Like, where does that start from? Was like someone doing that in Philly and they saw it and started their own crew, or like, were they just kind of started that? Like, who else was doing that?
I think they just did it. I mean, that probably would have been the era of like ECW, you know what I mean? But that was a whole different level. This was different. This was always for the love of the game. This was like...
Yeah. Well, I remember even when they would talk, when they would do the practices and stuff, and we'd go to the practices, it would always be wrestling, and Brad was just obsessed with it.
Yeah. So those dudes were always really into it, and I went to a couple of their shows, but like didn't take it all that seriously, and then like later on started getting back into wrestling, and my friend Jordan got me to go. I got back into like the old stuff, watched all the old WrestleManias and like the '80s shit, you know what I mean? But still didn't fuck with the newer stuff all that much. And then my friend Jordan got me to go see Chikara in Hellertown at the American Legion, and I remember I walked in and I was just like, it felt so small, and I was sort of underwhelmed, and I was just like, ooh, what am I in for? You know what I mean? And then as soon as it started, I was just blown away, and I was like, no, this is it. This is like DIY. This is the basement shows that I've been going to for all these years that like, are in my blood, but wrestling, and it's not the old style of wrestling was like, oh, we're making fun of these losers that think this is real, and the joke's on them, and they were the marks for the con game. You know what I mean? But Chikara was my first introduction into this idea of like, no. We're all in on this. We know this is a show. Let's have fun together. Like the joke's not on... They're not laughing at the audience. They're laughing with the audience. And, just Ultramantis wrestled for Chikara. I started screen printing shirts for Ultramantis, and that's where it all sort of dovetailed together, where I started printing for Ultramantis, and the dude was the king of the merch table and would sell more shirts than anybody. So then other wrestlers wanted to get their shirts printed by the guy who printed their shirts. And so then I'm printing for, 5 or 6 guys out of the locker room. Then I'm printing for half the locker room. Then I'm printing for the whole goddamn place. And I would go, they used to have this King of Trios tournament in Easton, and I would go, and it would just be like, printed that shirt in the audience, like that shirt. There was just 50 shirts in the audience that I printed. The merch table was like, the exception to the rule was the people that I didn't print for. And that was very cool. And then how I got into the actual, like, promoting the wrestling shows was when I moved from Allentown to Fountain Hill. There was going to be like a 2-week window where my lease wasn't up until the end of the month, but I thought I'd be out by the middle of the month. And so I thought, you know what? We had done a couple shows. We had a couple bands play at the shop, like just friends that were on their way through on tour, or like Sprainerd. I think they played like a reunion, or they played a last show that was long after their second to last show. And so like they needed to practice. So their dry run was playing at my shop for 50 people. You know what I mean? Then they played for 600 at the Unitarian Church in Philly. That was their real send-off show, that sort of thing. And so I was like, I hit up Dasher Hatfield and Ultramantis, and I was like, yo, could we do a couple of wrestling matches and a couple of bands at my warehouse before, like at the garage space, when it's empty before my lease is up? And, I checked with my insurance lady, and she was like, yeah, if it's a promotional event for the business, it'll be covered by the liability insurance. I'm like,
that's so awesome.
Good enough for me. Hopefully I don't have to find out the hard way that that's not right. But so
they're just in court, and they're like, yeah, she was wrong.
Yeah. Just sue me for everything which is
not written anywhere.
Not much, but no, yeah, it probably wasn't. But as it turns out, moving the shop was a monumental task. It was a complete nightmare. And so we were not out when I thought we would be out. And it took years off my life getting out. It was just brutal. And on top of that, it's very hard to get a wrestling ring because there's not a whole lot of people that own them. And the people that own them are probably people that want to stay in good standing with the state because Pennsylvania is a useless hillbilly state where they think wrestling is still real. So you have to work, you have to have a license, and you have to work through the athletic commission in the state.
And the athletic commission, from what I'm learning from working with the MMA community and the jiu-jitsu guys over at 10th Planet, it is an absolute fucking circus nightmare, and you can't get anything done.
They've been really easy for us, thankfully. Knock on wood again. Uh-oh.
You're fine, dude.
But you gotta play, like, they treat it like a legitimate sport. They treat it like MMA or boxing. So you can't just have a couple of assholes in their underwear play fight for 50 of your friends. You have to go through the system. And so the people who own wrestling rings don't want to spoil their relationship with the state. So it's very hard to get them to let you borrow or rent their wrestling ring. As it came close to, it was just like, this isn't worth it. Just to get sued over this is stupid. I'm not doing this. It's too hard. I can't get a ring. It sucks. This is too much work moving the shop. So we just shit canned the idea, and there would be text messages periodically, like kind of half joking for the next couple of months about you being like, hey, what about that idea? What about that idea? So that became the germ, or the seed, the germ. That became the seed for what was the Let's Hang Out events at Sokol's. And that was how it started, was, wouldn't it be cool to do this thing? Fuck, we didn't get to do this thing, but it was still kicking around in my head, and it was still like, you got to exercise those demons. You got to get through that. You got to try that thing, because you don't know. If it's a waste of your fucking time and a waste of your fucking money, at least you know. But you don't know until you do it. So you want to do it. And if it's cool, fucking A, that's wonderful. And so it ended up being cool, thankfully. But we had to do it. We had to get it out of our system to know, is this a stupid idea? And it is a stupid idea, but it's a stupid idea that other people liked. So, it was nice.
So when you were getting that all set up and everything, you just basically, because I mean, you're not doing it where you work. It looks like the location of it's a pretty rad spot. So what was it like then that you had to be like, okay, well, at least now we can plan it. Or, well, we need a location. Okay, well, now we have time. It's not on like this crunch of like you having to moving anywhere sucks. A house, a business,
right?
Especially if you have to pack up a bunch of shit you've had sitting there.
Yes.
I couldn't even imagine.
And I'm a
screen. Well, I mean, just the boxes. I worked in screen printing. Like there's fucking. I had worked in a place that was wall to wall. It was just shelves of fucking T-shirts that are like wrecked because they sat so long.
Right, and it fosters the hoarder mentality that I'm already geared toward, just like, you never know when you're gonna need that.
Yeah.
You can find a use for it at some point. So, so Sokol's, the National Sokol's is, it's a townie key club members only bar.
I love it.
It's classic Pennsyltucky, like old steel town on the hill by Lehigh University, and they had started letting us do punk shows up in their little hall. And so I talked to the president, and I was like, hey, would you be game for this idea? And he was like, wait, like wrestling, like The Rock, like Hulk Hogan wrestling. And I was like, yeah, that kind of wrestling. And he was just like, yeah, sure, why not? So we rented a ring, and everything's been always above board, because you have to be, because if the state shows up, they'll crack your skulls if you're trying to do, if you're doing it illegally.
But now you have time to do shit, so you can contact the commission, and you know what I mean? Then it's less stressful. Then it's like, oh, okay, things are moving. Let's keep going it, where before it was kind of a forced idea into a terrible timeline.
Yes, yeah, we had to really like thread this needle and hit this tiny little target of a time window, and then it became like,
which is fun to do, but if you don't know when to stop a bad idea, or an idea that could go, like that idea is awesome and it worked, but like if you could have potentially forced that, it could have fucked your business up, and or you never even would have done another one, because it would have left this would be a different story of you being like, this is why we don't do the wrestling thing anymore.
Yeah, it's not often that I think in my life I've known when to fold them.
Yeah,
but sometimes you got to just know when to fold them.
Thank you, Kenny.
And and so you just move on. You know what I mean? It's not worth the gamble. You lay them down and you go. And so, we were able, and Sokol's super supportive of this asinine idea of setting up a big wrestling ring, you know? And the first show was great. By the time the doors opened, there was a line around the block.
Yeah.
And we opened the doors at 7. The first bell was at 7:30. It was sold out by the first bell. And so we were like, well, shit, I guess we got to do it again. So the second show is literally just called Let's Hang Out Again. You know, I didn't expect it to go past that. You know what I mean? I didn't expect it to go past the first show. I thought that Ultramantis and I were just going to lose our shirts in the first one. And the first show was losing our shirts. The first show, the roster was predominantly guys that he was friends with and that I was friends with, people that I printed shirts for, people that I knew if nobody showed up, I could be like, hey, I'll get you on the next load of shirts.
Yeah.
You know, like call in that favor because I think that they were like-minded as well. My friend Bryce was our referee. He's on AEW every week on TV now, you know? But at the time, like he did the show and he was like, there's money shows and there's funny shows. This is a funny show. This is a show that people want to do because it's fun and it's unique and they want to be a part of it. The money will always work out on those shows because they're not doing it for the payday. They're not doing it to like there's shows that you don't want to do that you're gonna take that money, you know, but this is different. This is a fun show. So that was cool because that dude's been around for years and like, you know, now he's on TV. So like the guy knows his shit. So to hear him sort of like read it that way was nice and it was flattering. And it instilled me with a lot of confidence, which is like, hey, yeah, these are cool. So we did Let's Hang Out Again, and then we closed it out with the holiday hangout. So it was like July, October, and December. Boom, boom, boom. And then the next year, we did it again. Excuse me. And then our buddy Dan Champion, him and Orange Cassidy, also on TNT every week, they used to work at the Peaburg Mall. Like they grew up in Peaburg.
Great mall.
Great mall. Rest in peace.
Rest in power.
Rest in rubble. So I guess Dan from working there, the guy who used to be the head of the security or a security guard was now the mall manager. So Dan hit me up and was like, yo, we should do a show at the Peaburg Mall. And I'm fascinated by
what's awesome is they're like video game levels, like wherever you'd get like the season in the video game where you would have to like go through until you got to like the professional. Oh, I made it here. When I saw like it was just cool seeing how you guys branded all that stuff.
Yeah, so you know, then we talked to the mall, got it set up. We did a wrestling show inside of an old Foot Locker where Dan and Orange Cassidy used to work when they were in high school. You know, it's like,
where did you put the ring? Was it in like the middle of the mall, or did you put it?
No, it was in the Foot Locker.
In the Foot Locker?
Yeah, it was in the Foot Locker because, like, I don't know how, but the fire marshal was like, "Oh, this is your capacity." It was like 400 people or something insane like that. I don't know how they figured the square footage in the shop because we had a little over 300, and it was like, this is perfect. This is the perfect amount of too many people.
Yeah, that's a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, Foot Lockers, I guess, it was a big Foot Locker.
Yeah. It was probably I know the style Foot Locker was.
Yeah, but I mean, it definitely closed 15 years ago, so the walls were like teal and purple and pink. Like, it was like the perfect, like, throwback 90s looking dead mall. I mean, and same thing. Up to gates, you know, up to the door time, we were like, we're fucked because it was a Saturday afternoon. The first time we'd done a show not at Sokol's, and we're like, oh god, this is gonna, that's it, we're fucked. You know what I mean?
The nerves, the just
half
pacing.
Hour, half hour before doors open, the line starts forming. By the time we started the event, it was the length of the mall, and it's like we looked at the Google Maps and it said, very busy. And I was like, when do you think the last time the Phillipsburg fucking mall was very busy according to Google Maps? Like, it was such a cool feeling. And you know, we had Santoro's there slinging dogs and it was a great show. And then we did another couple at Sokol's, and then we talked to...
What a cool vibe though, to even walk around a dead mall like that, going to a wrestling show.
Yeah, it was very cool. But when we were setting up the ring, I like walked up and down. I just took like a Instagram live feed of me walking the length of the mall. I think I saw 2 people that didn't work there. It was awesome. And then we hit up. So we also screen print for Mahoning Drive-In.
Yeah.
And so through the screen printing and through dealing with them, I was just like, hey, here's this idea. What do you think of this? And Bryce, the aforementioned Bryce, had also, I guess, kind of planted the seed with them at some point. And I also reached out to Becky's, another drive-in in the area, just to kind of see what was out there. And Becky's, one of the people there was a little more nervous about the liability, and they were like, so they passed on it. But Mahoning, I don't know if it's for sure, they're goofy. And they love doing goofy shit. Like when you go there this summer, you will love it. It is ridiculous. And
I've been wanting to go for like the last year and a half.
Yeah, it's
2
great.
years. Yeah.
It's cool. I've been going up for I think they switched to like all retro like 3 or 4 years ago. And I think I started going up like the first or second year they started doing that stuff. And it's really grown a lot. So last year was the year that we tried to do the real Rumble. And it was like, we showed 2 wrestling movies and had a couple of wrestling matches before the show. And that was again, we're not at Sokol's. We're sort of out of our safe zone.
Just to interrupt here for a second, you're still running a screen printing business while doing all this. Continue.
Yes. Running a small business while doing this. Also putting out records. It's... I'm a glutton for punishment. I'm fucking wired wrong. You know what I mean?
No, I get.
We also
what
talked
you're
about
doing.
that before recording. It's just like when you're wired wrong, you just go and you just do it. And last year we did the first one at Mahoning.
Did you had a ring there and everything?
Yeah. So at some point in all of this story, we bought a wrestling ring.
I was going to ask you. At what point
we were renting them for the first probably I want to say the first 6 or 7 shows, probably, maybe the first 5 or 6 shows, we were renting a ring, and that was fine. It was overhead, but it was whatever. And then before the holiday show, 2019, sometime in the few months before then, my buddy Adlib, who's one half of the Space Camp.
Yeah, he's been on a bunch.
He's amazing. He's great. He hit me up, and he was like, yo, because he knows we do the wrestling stuff, and he was like, yo, would you want to buy a wrestling ring? And I was like, who's asking? Why? It's like, I got a buddy that has a wrestling ring that's looking to get rid of it. So grabbed Ultramantis, grabbed our buddy Junior, who's also helping. After the first show, Junior kind of came into the fold, and he handles a lot of the logistical stuff, getting the doctor, because you have to have a doctor in Pennsylvania, getting the license, getting all, he handles all that stuff, which is amazing. So the 3 of us went up to this dude's garage. Turns out it was somebody else that I knew that I had printed shirts for. And it's just like...
Yeah, because if you're buying a wrestling ring, you got to bring people with you and
I don't know what the fuck I'm doing.
Yeah. There's that lawsuit again.
Right. At least these 2 guys, Junior's a wrestler and Ultramantis is a wrestler. So it's okay, these guys are at least wrestlers. They can I don't know, run the ropes or bump on the ring and I don't know, help me to figure out if it's a death trap or if it's a bad idea. You just
need somebody to be like, feels good.
Yeah, so
she feels good.
Right. So we bought it. It was a good deal. I bartered a little bit for T-shirts too, of course.
Ooh, yeah.
And we own a wrestling ring, and so the Christmas show of 2019, we used our own wrestling ring, and then so that's it. We run a U-Haul and we go. Actually, what the hell is
That's
it?
awesome, though, because I know what it's like to be putting on things and get things together. And then when you start getting equipment that just takes a couple steps out of it, makes the whole thing a little bit easier.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure not having to deal with a fucking wrestling ring guy, making sure that it's okay to do it, putting the money out. You'd be like, dude, all right, we'll just load the ring up. Load the ring up.
I will say, though, it's a pain in the ass to build it and move it.
Oh, I'm sure it's a fucking nightmare.
That was the nice part of you just give somebody $600 or $800.
Oh, that's right, because they set the whole thing up for you.
They worry about the U-Haul. They worry about building it. They get, you know what I mean? So, there's drawbacks to it, but we don't have to worry about them flaking or their truck breaking down or the price of the ring suddenly being $200 more the day of the show, or you know what I mean? It's there's no bullshit. It's our shit, and we can control that at least. It's a pain in the ass and it breaks our backs, but it's our...
Did you put your logo in the middle of the ring, or do you like have stuff on the curtains? Down at the
I
bottom?
screen printed on the turnbuckle pads.
Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
How long did it take for you to look at it where you were like, I can screen print on that?
Oh, honey. Day one.
That's dope, though.
Yeah. No, and it's that's also cool. Like I would love, the dream really is to buy a building that's big enough that we can do stuff like that
You'll do
in the building. But I got to start making a lot more money.
Yeah, but I mean, I had a conversation, and I was talking about it in the last podcast where my buddy was like when I did that smash burger thing, like I didn't have time to take any pictures, and then like to see the amount of people that took pictures, and then Quentin made that video, like I didn't ask anybody to do that shit, like people just did that, and then my buddy's like, dude, he's like, you're fucking crushing it right now, and I'm like, yeah, man, I go, I can't believe I'm still doing this stuff, and he goes, you're not gonna stop. He just goes, you want it more than anyone else, and you're not going to stop. And like, you know, I can tell just for how far you've been, and, you know, I follow you on stuff, and I see the same thing in you as like, you know, even when we got here and we were talking before, like you're eventually going to buy a building. It's like, you know what I mean? Like when I look at this, like the next move's up there, but I mean, like when I'm done with this and like whatever it is at the end of the road, this is definitely going to be on my fucking property. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In the middle of fucking nowhere, doing whatever the fuck I want in a warehouse that I fucking built. Like, you know what I mean? Like I'd be stupid to pay, like you said, somebody else's mortgage when I could be paying half of that to do whatever the fuck I want.
Yeah.
Plus then have cool shit where like my friends come over and I'm like, oh, you know what else we could do here is this, or like, here's the arcade. Like, and like to buy something knowing that this is the correct amount of space instead of settling for what you know it'll be better. Yeah. You know, that's the end game.
I mean, personally, I feel like I've also been like so lucky and just happened into the right stuff. You know what I mean? That I think you're right. I think something's gonna come along where it's just the right time, the right place, and
but it's also like, you know, I don't think it's you're lucky. It's you're stubborn and you don't give up on dreams.
Too dumb to die.
Yes, but like how you guys stop. You know, you didn't do the wrestling thing, but then it was in the back of your head, and then you completed that task because you knew you could do it, or you wanted to scratch that itch. That itch doesn't go away.
Right.
So I mean, for you mentioned the building thing twice now. It's your itch. You're not going to not do it, but also, why wouldn't you buy a building? It would be cheaper. It would, you know what I mean? There's more responsibilities, but like you could do more in it. And if you had an area where you can put a wrestling area, and you could do this, and you had everything. I mean, exactly the way you want it. Why wouldn't you do it?
Every grown-ass man-child like us, our dream is just the Foot Clan lair from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yes,
like,
100%.
I want a fucking half pipe.
100%.
I already got a couple of arcade machines.
Yeah.
I got a wrestling ring.
Awesome.
Let's fucking go.
Yeah, because I was talking to my buddy. I'm like, I ran into, and this is also why I love networking, is like I ran into the arcade guy, and I'm into I grew up going to arcades, Double Dragon, WrestleFest, like, you know, there's so many awesome games. The Simpsons game, like there's even Golden Tee, because I'm trying to think of something that like if somebody gets into an argument down here or something that like the high score would be a thing. Yeah, and I was like, dude, Golden Tee's not easy. It's going to be something that's going to level the playing field because none of us are good at Golden Tee. I know Jared will probably get good at Golden Tee and beat everyone, but like there's a learning curve. But like, you know, and then I'm talking to this kid and he's like, dude, he's like, you know, that's awesome. You're doing the podcast. I'll do your show. He's like, we also put on these, he took me into the basement of a place and he's like, we put on these fucking live stream video game competitions. I'm like, I'm in. Yeah. I'm like, let's go, dude. But
they're doing another thing with Mahoning. I think it's the end of this month. They're doing Video Game Weekend.
Maybe that's what my buddy texted me about.
On Friday, they're showing...
Is it Power, the Fred Savage movie are they doing?
No, they're not Wizard. They're not doing that. They're showing Street Fighter with Raul Julia and JCVD. And then after that, there's a fucking video game tournament on the big screen. Yeah. And then Saturday, I think it is, they're showing Mortal Kombat, the original one, not the new one, the good one. The new one looks good though. I'm ready. I'm ready.
A lot of people are saying it's what should have been, but they went too dulled down.
The first one is great, and anyone who do not besmirch the good. Anyway, and then a video game tournament, which is like that's so cool.
Yeah,
like,
they don't do shit like that anymore. Yeah.
And all
I'll
it
go to
took,
that one.
all it
That'll be
took
fun.
was some weirdos getting the reins.
Yes.
And doing cool shit.
Yeah.
And I like Virgil and Matt and Jeff is he's the projectionist. He's like the elder statesman there. He's the guy who was there when Matt and Virgil like stumbled into it. And it's like all it took was those weirdos getting the reins and doing something different. And now it's very much like every year there's more.
They do
and more
so
people
much
there.
cool stuff.
Yeah.
So much cool stuff.
So it's like if you build it, they will come kind of thing. And I feel like
That's so cool
you
about
know.
the video game thing. But that
Yeah.
was the thing I told the guys, and then because I just do shit I want down here.
Yeah.
And it's like and then it's like I was like, hey, over there, I'm gonna clear out that space, and then that's gonna be where the arcade machine goes.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm gonna get multicade. And my buddy Tim is like. We grew up playing video games together, and I'm like, dude, how fun is that going to be down here just playing fucking Double Dragon?
Yeah.
I'm like, you remember when we used to go to the arcade and run out of fucking money? And he's like, dude. And then he starts looking around. He's like, dude, this place is hooked the fuck up. And then I'm like, yeah, dude, it's all stuff I want. It's all
Right.
stuff I want around me.
Right.
I can't believe people don't do that.
right.
It's not. That is so as crazy as all this shit looks to everyone else. Me looking through it on the other side, I'm like, what are you guys doing?
Yeah, why wouldn't you do this?
Yeah.
You know?
I don't know.
Make joy for yourself.
Yeah.
You know? What was I gonna say? Shit, I had some profound shit. It's gone. Forget it. Forget it.
Well, when's your event for Mahoning?
Oh, okay. It's May 21st and May 22nd.
Yeah.
The tickets are up now at mahoningdit.com. And if you pre-order tickets for both nights, you'll have a free shirt to pick up at the show. So a little bonus if you're willing to stay up there the whole weekend.
I
with
like
us.
that you have that tool to throw in the extra stuff with the T-shirts, and you do the, you know what I mean? Like even just throwing that in there and giving them even more. Be like, hey, get the tickets now, you get the T-shirt, but having the ability to work your first love in with all the fun stuff that you
Yeah.
get to do now.
Yeah,
It's
the
fucking dope.
actual business, the thing that puts food on my table, still kind of has a way to work in to tie into the wrestling. Which
Did
is
you
just
print
goofy
shirts
fun.
for Jean-Claude Van Damme?
Yes.
How the fuck did you get connected to that?
The artist. It's a friend of a friend. So whoever is in charge of JCVD's store is friends with somebody that we also print for.
Yeah.
I think that in some other life or in some other job, this guy has done design work for this guy. So when this guy needs a tip on where to screen print, he goes to that. That guy is the guy who knows somebody, and I'm that somebody. So we print for Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Have you got to meet him?
No, God, no, but that'd be cool as hell.
But you're like a super fan, though. I'm not a super fan, but like you're into that style, the old movies and shit.
Yeah. Who doesn't?
What
love
was that
JCVD?
like when you landed that and you were like you closed the deal
Oh,
on it? It was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, no, it was very much like a giddy.
Yeah,
like
it's not like you're
what?
closing Notre
How
Dame
is
High
this my
School.
life? Right? Like, how is this a thing? I mean, we've printed for Primus, we've printed for Vans, we've printed for now JCVD. Like, anytime that we get something like that, it's just like, how? How is this what I do for a living?
Yeah.
This is my job. This is the coolest fucking
When you
thing in
get
the
when you
world.
get those projects like Vans and all that, I mean, do you let it run by itself, or do you kind of step in a little bit and take a little bit tighter control over everything? Like, are you out on the floor making sure, you know what I mean? Because, I mean, you started doing the screen printing and you don't, you're obviously handling other shit. Like, do
Sure.
you step in a little bit tighter, or do you trust the crew?
I think I pretty much trust the crew. I mean, if I step in tighter, it's because I'm excited and
Yeah,
I
that's what I
see it.
meant. Like, that's what I meant. Like, you're kind of like more involved on these.
Yeah, maybe.
Because it's got to turn into a passion project when you're doing cool shit like that.
Right. Maybe I'm involved because it's fun and I'm excited about it. But I do trust everybody that works for me. Like we were also talking before recording. Like the two main screen printers have worked with me for 5 or 6 years, and I knew them for 5 or 6 years before that. And my lead graphic designer, I've been friends with for 20 years. So everybody knows what they're doing, and I can just let them do it.
Yeah.
But if I'm excited about something, I'll usually, have eyes on it a little
Now,
bit
when
more.
they come to you for that shirt or the van stuff, do they have the artwork already finished and all that, and they're just looking for a screen printer, or are they working with you on design as well?
No, that was when we printed for Vans, it was like a collab with Homebase. And so it was for the local shop. They wanted to use the screen printer that they use to keep it in-house, to keep it to keep it legit in the community. And so Andy came to me with the artwork, and we got to print for him. You know?
That's cool.
Yeah, it was very cool. It's very cool to get. We've done for like NASCAR cars and
so
like
much fun.
Coca-Cola and
Yeah.
like getting a check from that is like, huh,
It's got to be fucking just bizarre.
we're a real company. It's
Yeah.
weird.
But I mean, like I said, that's why it always appealed. That's why I always wanted to sit down and do this, is because it started in a fucking shed.
Yeah.
And then for you to be doing fucking shit for Jean-Claude Van Damme and Vans and Coca-Cola, like, that's not, those are all fucking massive fucking companies
Right.
that like got connected back to you
Right.
because you wanted to help other people out along the way. It's got to feel fucking...
No, it feels great. It's definitely the story of just knowing the right people, being good to people, and being at the right place at the right time, and just kind of stepping into it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that we got to print for JCVD because we're the best screen printers in the world. I don't think that I think we're good screen printers. I don't want to say that we're not, but like, I don't think that there's anything special. I think it was just the right people involved and being good.
Yeah,
to
but the
people.
right people involved are choosing you because... And I get that you don't see it because you're living it, and it happens a lot with me sometimes, but it's like how you carry yourself and the relationships you build and the reason, because you're who you are,
Right.
is why these avenues are coming up. So like when he says, oh, I have the perfect screen printer, and then he probably says something complimentary about you because like, oh, well, this guy does this, and this, or I
Right.
met him through there, and he's good people, and he always takes care of everybody, and he doesn't fuck anyone over, and it's why I don't rip people off doing fucking t-shirts, because it goes out there, man.
Right.
Like we were talking in the beginning, when somebody comes to me and they're like, I want 500 shirts, and I'm like, can you sell 30? Like I talk people out of spending money every fucking time I do something. And what's crazy is I didn't know I was doing it until the second year I was selling shirts, and they all came back.
Right.
And then they were like, okay, like, and then we're now having a conversation. I was like, holy shit, like these people are trusting me because I saved them money, and I put them as a person before fucking money. And
Right.
that's what people fucking give a shit about.
Right.
So
It's
don't
not-
downplay what you do, sir.
Thank you. Sorry. Can I hire you to be my hype man?
Just come back on.
Yeah, or like you catch somebody's artwork fuck up, and it's just like they trust you now.
Yeah.
Because you're not custom ink, garbage in, garbage out. They don't care. You gave us low res artwork. Here you go. Have your shirts. They look like shit.
Yeah.
Sorry, not actually sorry. You can't have a refund. Peace.
Yeah.
But like they're gonna come to you, and you're gonna be like, hey, listen, your eyes are bigger than your stomach in this. Can you sell this many shirts? And you have the history of like you've eaten that shit too. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And like as I've eaten that shit because I've fucked up. Like I said, the most important thing about running a business, you learn trial and error, and you screw up and you learn what doesn't work.
Yeah, I remember I printed a run of shirts and it didn't have the outline logo around my logo.
Right.
And I like sent him the wrong artwork and never caught it. And I was like, fuck.
We didn't do that. I would have caught it.
No. How dare you, sir? I forget. It was just I didn't. You know who put it out was the artist, because I think we agreed on one version, and then the second version is what we wanted, and then
Gotcha.
I only because the other thing too is like I'm trying to rush it. Like I don't do that shit anymore now. Like I try and I'll never stop making t-shirts. I'll never do it. And hopefully one day it grows to a point where it like what you say with the record thing, where it's like I just want to do shirts. My goal with shirts is to break fucking even.
Right.
It's a fun, creative thing. I like working with Bicknell and the other local artists and shit like that. But like, the artist caught it, and then I reran it again later, but it's fucking up.
Yeah. Yeah. I like with your t-shirts, like, but that becomes like the record label, you touched on that, and it's just like, I definitely have a screen printing company because of the record label, because my earliest clients were bands coming through on tour.
Yeah.
Bands whose records I put out, friends of theirs, friends of theirs, friends of friends of friends of theirs. And it's like you just network out from that. So you do something because you're driven to do it. and the rest falls into place.
It really does. And it oddly does too, because now what my life used to be was chasing things, and then now I have learned to just let things happen, and then I trust the process of what I'm doing, and then doors start opening, and then instead of rushing through them or like running through a brick wall, and then like I always tell everybody, I used to put my head down and go through a brick wall, and I was the fucking king of doing it. But then I realized that all you end up doing is cleaning up a fucking mess. So the whole year you're picking up fucking bricks, and then I dust myself off, and I wasted fucking half the year cleaning up the mess, and then I can go the next year.
Yeah.
So then I was like, all right, well, why don't you stop doing that? And why don't you stop paying attention to, like, you know, let things come to you, especially with food. Like, I love food. It's my favorite thing to do. I love when people, what's funny is out of all the things, the only thing that really gives me joy is when someone's like, dude, that cheeseburger, and I'm like, it was good. But like, I love doing that so much. And I was burned out from that industry. I didn't want to quit that. I looked at one point in running my own restaurant. Like, I had dreams of doing something in the culinary field. And I took it seriously at a time. Then when that got taken away from me, like it just haunted me. It haunted me and haunted me. And it's like, now I pushed it to a point where like, I'm going to do it.
Right.
I'm going to do it, but on my terms,
Right.
the way I want to do it. And then it's like, I learned all that from fucking up all this shit. And then now I have the confidence to go over here and be like, we're going to do pop-ups. We're going to do pop-ups when I say we're going to do pop-ups.
And you said about your t-shirts, like when you started, you could have pushed it and tried to be in PacSun.
Yeah.
But then what would your life be like now if you had done that? And would
Probably
it
be
be
in Southern California with a model.
all right? Fair enough. But like, you wouldn't be talking to me
No.
in this basement
And
in beautiful scenic Nazareth.
Yes, and I look at a lot of the brands that, you know, and then that was the other thing too, is I didn't understand the longevity of what brands were. And I know there's a lot of brands that come and they're gone, and especially a lot of shit out in Cali at that time when I wanted to do that. Like, it's a garbage truck, and it'll spit you out, and then it's like the next big thing comes, and then it's totally opposite from what you're doing. So then everybody's like, oh well, his shit sucks.
Right.
You
And
know,
you're
it's not a
you can never get
friendly.
that again.
It's not a friendly world.
No,
to be
and
making
then-
money in.
And then then you have this has-been, like you'll never reach that again.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't what you were supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And now it's just like, you're going to make shirts because it's what you're driven to do.
And even how I changed everything, like I always would, like, because now lately what I'll do is I'll come up with a theme, and I'll be like, that'll be fun to do that all summer. But like, if I was running a clothing company, like there would be so much that, like, you know, if something made money and then I didn't want to do it anymore,
Yep.
but I had to keep fucking printing, you know, some fucking thing that's just nostalgic for another 2 fucking years. And then the way I work is like, I want to be constantly
It's a
moving,
job,
man.
then.
And you're very similar, where like you want to do the wrestling, you want to do the screen printing, you want to do this, you want to do that. And then it's just like, when you get to do all those things, because like, I would notice like where depression would build up. It's like I was just forced to do one thing constantly, and then you'd run into fucking problems. Where now it's like, if something gets going, like the food, like I'm in that lane, it's going good, things are doing, I made a little bit of money, and then I stop. And then I'm like, cool. And then everyone's like, why'd you do another pop-up? What? And I'm like, hey, the Nazareth one's coming. Bye. I'm over here now. Like, you know what I mean? Now I'm back over here, and like, I got the working class shirt coming out, and it's like, I want to do that. We filmed this huge fucking commercial, and like, it's, you know, Josh Martin did the fucking score on it, and my buddy fucking filmed it with the Game of Thrones camera. Like, it's fucking crazy when I'm going to drop it, but it's like, I got to focus on that because I can't do food. I wanted to go back over here, and I want to sell fucking more. You know, I always hear people chirping, what, you doing the flannels again? And it's like, yeah, I'll get there eventually when I'm doing it all, but I love being able to just go,
well, and there's like
so much fun.
There's a through line through all of it. And there's just a little bit of connective tissue through
Yes.
everything. There's you.
Yes.
There's you
Yeah.
through all of it, which I think is a big part of it, is just like my friend said, this is what goes on inside of your brain. This
Yeah.
is the most Chris Reject thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, shit, I didn't think about that, but I guess you're right. And that's part of the common thread that runs through it. But then there's this other connective tissue where it's like, well, all the wrestlers are guys that we also print shirts for. And the turnbuckle bats, the wrestling company is called Lehigh Valley Athletics Council, because Lehigh Valley Apparel Creations is the same letters, L.V.A.C.
Yeah.
And that was originally named after the Lehigh Valley Activities Crew, which was just like a bunch of my goon friends who would play kickball, and you know what I mean? So like, I named my company after them, and now the wrestling thing has the same letters, but it's a little bit different. But it's really, like some of the wrestlers, I'll give them their payday in free printed shirts because they can double up their payday
Yeah.
if they're willing to sell, if they're willing to put the work in and sell those shirts. So it's a win-win. I get off a little bit lighter. They get off a little bit more money. And I also have a new customer out of the deal.
Yeah.
And so everything still kind of runs
It's
together.
fun. It's fun connecting the dots. I mean,
Yeah.
when I started it, it was never again. And I had a moment where I was like, all right, well, maybe I'll do clothing. And then I was like, my brother at the time wanted to do skateboards. So then it was like, there was multiple things going on. I was like, you know what? I'm going to do never again. And I'm going to umbrella everything. And I'm not going to pigeonhole myself. And that's the biggest advice I give to people. I was like, don't pigeonhole yourself. Where someone's like, I'm starting a clothing company and it's for this. And I'm like, well, I tried that. It's very hard to stay in a fucking lane, especially if like you can't get it going. It's better to just open it up. So now
Make
there's
it whatever you want it to be.
Yep. So now it's never again. Okay. Well, what are we doing? We're doing never again radio. Okay. That's the podcast. Then we're doing never again clothing. That's the apparel. Now we're doing never again studio, which is where I do all the stuff that I'm doing over here, but businesses hire me to get everything done for them. Now we're doing food. And I was like, what am I going to call this? I'll call this and that. And I'm like, how the fuck do I brand it underneath never again? Because it doesn't make sense to food. And then I'm like, I just kept saying, we're making a studio kitchen. We're doing a studio kitchen. And then I wrote out studio kitchen. I started making a list of what we needed to buy. And I go, studio kitchen. I go, now it's all, because I didn't know how I was going to put it under. But now I'm like, okay, now it's underneath studio kitchen. So then we can put studio. And then in the word kitchen, we'll put we'll use the fucking radio tower. And then like when I do the intro now for the podcast, I'm like, it's going to go past where the podcast is and you're going to go right. And there's going to be a food sign. And I'm going to be like, that's the intro for the fucking thing.
Right.
And that's what I get off on when I do this. And I know you do the same thing.
Yeah, I just remembered. I forgot this, but like when I remember when I first started, the record label is called Square of Opposition, and when I first started, I started with my friend Seth and my friend Ray, and I remember distinctly having a conversation with Seth where we were booking shows, we were putting out records, and I remember us having a conversation where we were like, we don't want to call it Square of Opposition Records, we just want to call it Square of Opposition, and so whatever we do, it is that. If we book shows, that's Square of Opposition is booking that show. If we put out records, that's the records. But like, it is whatever we do. It's whatever we say it is.
Yeah.
And I feel like while the records is the only thing that's called Square of Opposition, it's still that same idea of like, it is whatever I want it to be. It's whatever you want it to be. Let's just do cool shit.
Yeah.
And have fun. And bring joy. Let's bring joy. Let's make happiness, and let's make fun for the people around us. Let's try to make our community a little bit better. Let's make our friends' lives a little bit better. Let's make our lives a little bit better, and let's just do whatever the fuck we want and have fun and make something cool. Let's do cool shit, and that's what it is. That's the brand, you know?
There is no other way to close this out than that. It's funny to me that you questioned what we would talk about. It's funny to me that you were like, wow, whatever, we'll just promote the thing. This is the conversation I wanted to have with you because I've seen you come up through all the stuff, and I know the hard work that goes into that. I know the moving and all that shit because I've done it with this, and I've been dying to have this conversation, and I'm so glad we got to capture it here. The stuff that you do is awesome. I love the fact that you do whatever the fuck you want. You get paid still, whether or not it's a little bit or a lot. You're still getting to do all this shit. I think it's awesome that you grew it into doing the fucking movie stuff. It's fucking awesome, man. I can't thank you enough for doing this. I'm going to get over to start going to the drive-in stuff. I want to talk them on to coming on, and then I want to bring both of you on at the same time to promote shit too. But anytime you want to promote anything you're doing, whether it's for charity, because we didn't even touch on all the shit you do with the t-shirts for that. If it's the fucking any event, I would love this conversation's fucking awesome. And every time we get together, they're similar to this. So the door is always open for anything you need here. I want to give you a chance to plug the event, everything else you got going on, and where anybody can find anything you're doing.
Okay, cool. I appreciate you having me on. First and foremost, thanks for having me down here, welcoming me into your humble abode.
Yeah, thank you, dude.
Plugging wise, the screen printing company is called Lehigh Valley Apparel Creations. It's L.V.A.C. Instagram is the L.V.A.C. You can follow us there. We post all kinds of, nonsense. The wrestling show is Real Rumble Redux. It's at Mahoning Drive-In Lehighton, Pennsylvania. The website for their tickets is mahoningdit.com. It's May 21st and May 22nd. Square of Opposition is, you can order records from there. Just go to store.squareofopposition.com. Buy the new Office Hours records. I think I have a couple dozen left, and that's about it. And that's it. Thanks for having me on, Mike. I appreciate all you watching and listening. And
it's 8 people.
Born to bullshit.
Mostly my family.
Well, hi, Mike's mom. Hi, Mike's dad. Hey, Mike's dad, did you hear about that time that he fixed the fucking dryer? Holy shit.
I want to bring my mom on. It'll be so much fun. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. If you're a first time of either of those, go to neveragainstudio.com. That has everything we're doing with the podcast. It has my personal apparel on it. This episode only. If you need apparel done, hit this gentleman up. He can help you out. Otherwise, outside of this, you can hit me up for that as well. That's it. Go check out the show that he's putting on. I'm going to be up there with my buddy Kyle Cummings, and I'm going to try and get up there more this summer. It's a blast from what I hear, and I think I'm going to VHS Fest, which I hear is like they sleep overnight. And, it looks like a good crew up there. So thank you again, man.
Cool. Thanks. See ya.
I never know how to end them.
Clap.
That went so well.
I believe it.